Hey there, film fans. I'm Jeff.
I'm Dave.
And I'm John, and welcome back to The Love of Cinema, a pod in which we'll challenge one another to discuss movies both new and old with a strictly positive critical eye.
That's right, and to avoid any lazy negativity, we are making this a drinking game.
We fucking are.
Any negative criticism about a film is absolutely allowed, but you will be called out for it, and you will have to take a drink every time.
So, pour yourself a glass, join us, give it up for the films we love, and perhaps the films that need some love. This week, what are we doing?
All right. Well, we our random year generator, since there are no new films. So last year, our random year generator pulled the film year 2013. So we have chosen 3 films from the year 2013, and we'll give you a little context of what else happened in that year of film. But first, we're going to send it over to John for some shout-outs.
Shout-outs.
All right, as always, we want to give it up to our beer sponsor. He is a real boy, I promise you. His name is Carlos Barroso. Follow him on Instagram at cbarrosobar2019 for some really awesome stuff. All of his microbrewing ingredients, the process. He's keeping us up to date. It's really fun. That's CBARROZOBAR 2019. And as always, the music you hear on this episode and every episode is provided by the artist Dasein. That's Dasein, D-A-S-E-I-N. You can find all the music available for free downloads at soundcloud.com/Dasein-artist.
Woo. Should we talk about next week?
Holy shit, we made it through the intro. The whole intro.
We did. We didn't
That was
even
the fastest we've ever made it through the intro. I do want to throw this out there. We talked about it last week. Sadly, coming up this week, we're going to be missing our good buddy Jeff. He's going to be gone.
He's on special assignment.
Very, very important business.
What?
Very important business.
Oh, yeah, you're fired, Jeff. Yeah.
Two special occasions.
I'm on one of those Fox News vacations that happens the day of. Oh, I'm not going to be here starting tomorrow because I'm on
Two very
vacation.
special occasions, right? Don't you get a birthday, an anniversary, something? So it's a big family events. So we gave him the night off next week. So just a quick reminder, we're going to be joined by the DJ, the man, the radio personality, Jack Daniel out of K104.7 in Charlotte. He's going to be joining us as a guest host. We're very excited. Looking forward to it. I can't wait to tell him the films he has to watch, especially the bad one, so that we can all get really drunk and talk about it and see what that feels like with somebody new.
I think that's what he's most excited about.
He's going to have a giant cup of instant regret, I'm sure.
Yeah, and we should make it very clear to everybody. He shared about us on his radio program, which was awesome, and online.
He did.
So if you share about us online, it's possible that you will be the next replacement guest host. So go ahead and give us those shares, give us those likes, give us the follows.
And we are all down for bringing somebody else in. So please respond to us. Follow at The Love of Cinema Pod for Facebook and Instagram, and at The Love of Cinema on Twitter. Holler at us. We're going to holler back at you. We're looking for people to have some fun with. We always want to have a guest host. So communicate, like us, love us. Let's do this fucking show, you guys.
Anybody want to do a quick round of what you've been watching? Any news, anything like that, Dave?
Oh, I have a list. I caught Code 8 I caught Code 8 this week on Netflix. It's the Amell brothers.
Yeah, how was that?
It was not bad. It wasn't a bad film. It's kind of like superpowers have been made illegal. Because they kind of govern them. It's almost like X-Men 3 before
X-Men?
it went to shit. Yeah. Sorry.
There's the buzzer. That's our first buzzer of the show, which means that Dave is drinking, and you should as well.
It's a really good take on it. It was a fun watch. I watched Bloodshot as well, the Vin Diesel superhero film, which is back in cinemas next week.
I was gonna, they did a virtual release, didn't they?
They did. It's not bad. It's not bad. It loses a little bit in the middle. It's kind of like The Revenant meets RoboCop.
Wow.
And yeah, I know, right? And but
oh my God, what a pitch.
Well, the thing that really gave me heart was I looked up the director, and he's a visual effects artist who turned to directing, and I was like, wow, if I ever decide to take the big chair, I hope I make a film that's like half as good as this was.
Wow.
Like, it's not a great film, but as a first effort, it's a fucking good film.
Nice, dude.
Yeah, and I also caught Safety Not Guaranteed, which is an indie on Netflix.
Dude.
Yeah. Colin
Wait,
Trevorrow.
that's the one from... Yeah, what year is that from?
2012.
Yeah, that movie's great, dude.
Yeah, Aubrey Plaza, Karan Soni, I believe that's how you pronounce it. Sorry if I mispronounced that. Who is Dopinder from Deadpool. as a very young intern was that's a fun film to watch.
Yeah, that was a real touching movie and a fun little spin at the end. Like it becomes more than what you think it is at the end. That's a good movie. You should watch that, folks. I've been pushing through with Devs. That's been really fun. I also watched my brother-in-law is staying with me. He's an actor out of England, and he is writing a treatment and a pilot about a boxing story set here in the States, and he's kind of got some momentum going with that, talking with his representation and everything. So we've been watching boxing movies, and this week we watched Gavin O'Connor's The Warrior, or just Warrior, excuse me. Yeah. We talked about Gavin O'Connor earlier in our podcast when we saw The Way Back. We were not as huge fans of that one, although I think I liked it a little more than you guys. But this movie, his first movie, correct. Warrior is fucking awesome. I hope both of you guys have seen this. This is so good. Joel Edgerton and Tom Hardy and damn it, who plays the dad? Nick Nolte. God damn it, it's so fucking good.
Yeah, that sounds like a good cast, actually. Yeah.
Man, it's good. It really works. How about you, Jeff?
I don't know if you guys really want to hear my answers this week.
If it's reality TV, no, you can just
wait. I'm gonna give a shout out to one because Dave might like one. There's a show called Love on the Spectrum about young men and women who are on the spectrum trying to date. And a lot of them are Australian.
Why would I?
I was gonna say, why would Dave specifically like
Australian? Dave, I've been practicing my Australian accent.
They're not on the spectrum. They're drunk.
Oh my gosh! Well, hey, look, it's really tender. I loved
Australian.
it. We had a lot. It was a busy week. We had some guests. Chloe took
off the wagon.
I rewatched Twilight 1. Doesn't matter. Got to see some Dance Moms too. So yeah, it was a really busy week for me. Low on the Spectrum on Netflix. Oh, and World's Most Extraordinary Homes. Really, really, really good stuff for everybody out there. Okay, cool. So let's talk about. I'm gonna watch some great movies in the next 2 weeks without watching because I don't have to watch these 3.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Awesome. Let's talk about the film year 2013. Are you guys ready?
Yeah,
I'm ready, dude.
So I did a little bit of a deep dive here of the film year 2013, and I would say there are about 50 watchable films, which is fantastic. Good one a week here. Wow. As far as money at the box office, 32 films, 32 movies grossed $100 million in the American box office alone. 32 $100 million movies.
Wow. I'm
gonna go quickly through this. So if you're my brother listening a time and a half, get ready to have fun.
Yeah, isn't it cute that 100 million is like that used to be a thing?
Yeah, and none of them were the Lone Ranger. None of those movies are the Lone Ranger, which tagged. Can you buzz the Lone Ranger, please? Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, the highest grossing movie, Iron Man 3. Up there, Frozen, Hunger Games Catching Fire, Despicable Me 2, Man of Steel, Monsters University, Gravity, Fast and the Furious 6, Oz, Great Powerful, Star Trek Into Darkness, Thor, Dark World, World War Z, Hobbit, Desolation of Smaug. Other good movies in there. You got The Heat.
Thor Dark World broke 100 million?
202 million domestic.
Fucking hell.
I don't know what it is. Okay. Identity Thief, Grown Ups 2, The Wolverine, G.I. Joe Retaliation, Now You See Me, Cloudy, The Chance of Meatballs 2, Lee Daniels the Butler, sorry. Butler's the Daniel. The Hangover Part 3, Captain fucking Phillips. Great fun. $104 million. Silver Linings Playbook, Pacific Rim, This Is the End, Jackass, Bad Grandpa, all over $100 million. After that, you've got 42, Zero Dark 30, and then Insidious 2, Les Mis, made a lot of money overseas, but not so much in America. Yada, yada, yada.
The
Oscar season. The Oscar season, you will probably remember as seems to be happening now, is 2 films, pretty much, which was 12 Years a Slave versus Gravity. Gravity won 7 Oscars, including Alfonso Cuarón's Best Director, and virtually every special effects award or visual effect award, any effect award, any technical award was pretty much Gravity for that year, including the beginning of a fantastic run by Emmanuel Chivo Lubetsky, the first of 3 consecutive cinematography Oscars. Dave, you want to give Chivo a little shout out here?
It was some solid work there.
Yeah, so Gravity, and then he would obviously do Birdman and The Revenant, bang, 3 years in a row.
Yeah.
Boom, boom, boom.
And you could not get 3 films more apart, too, in style.
Oh, my God. After that, he's taking a year off, right?
That's a fucking diverse portfolio right there.
Yeah, that's awesome. So other films up for Best Picture, American Hustle, Captain Phillips, Dallas Buyers Club, which got, obviously, Matthew McConaughey and Jared Leto some Oscars. Nebraska. You have Philomena. You have Blue Jasmine came out this year, August Osage County. A lot of really, really, really good stuff. But we are going to focus on two films. Sorry, three films, because we're going to, two films that are in the conversation, and then another film that the critics and audiences had forgotten. So the first film we're going to talk about is The Wolf of Wall Street. This is actually my suggestion to rewatch. I did not intentionally suggest a 3-hour movie for us to rewatch. But like many Scorsese films post-2000, none of them ever hang with his older films. So I thought it would be worthwhile for us to take a look and see, what happens on a rewatch 7 years later. Then I think John was certainly a big fan of rewatching Her, the Spike Jonze feature starring Joaquin Phoenix, along with great supporting casts such as Scarlett Johansson, Amy Adams, Olivia Wilde, Chris Pratt. I actually forgot was in this movie. And then we're going to finish it up. Usually we finish up our segment with our redemption movie, or was it really that bad? This week is sort of stays true to that because Odd Thomas has a 39% on Rotten Tomatoes, I believe. But our co-host Dave here has actually read the books that Odd Thomas is based on, and it stars the late great Anton Yelchin, who died at a very, very early age of 29 to a freak accident. He has gone way too soon. You may know Anton Yelchin as Dr. Chekhov in the reboot of the Star Trek series. This is a person that would have made dozens of fantastic films.
It's just Chekhov. He never finished his doctorate.
Oh, great. Sorry. So Chekhov. Yes, Anton Yelchin. It also has a great supporting performance by Willem Dafoe, and it is available for free on Hulu. Please stick around and give us a listen when we get to Odd Thomas, because it's an interesting film that you may have never heard about that you might actually like, and it's available for free on Hulu. So,
and Amazon, Amazon Prime as well.
Oh, it is for free on Amazon? My apologies. Yeah. Great. All the more reason.
Subscription, but yeah.
Give Anton Yelchin some love, because he's awesome. Great. Wolf of Wall Street first. As I said, I was happy to give it another rewatch. I think everybody, listening probably knows what Wolf of Wall Street's about. Leonardo DiCaprio plays Jordan Belfort, who is broke at the beginning of the movie, and then very quickly in his 20s becomes one of the wealthiest stockbrokers on Wall Street. Most of his actions are not legal. This is basically in the 80s. This movie is very white. It is very 80s. It is very much stockbrokers, kind of stealing and ripping off the industry to put money in their pockets, taking advantage of the top 1%, and basically using the market as a game to make themselves millions of dollars. Jonah Hill nominated for an Oscar. Margot Robbie, Welcome to the World. Fantastic supporting cast. But for me, the central question, which you don't have to get to right off the bat, but the biggest reason that I wanted to rewatch it is critics and some of my good friends that I take their opinion very seriously have said Wolf of Wall Street is masturbatory, which means it glorifies this lifestyle as an excuse for crazy camera work and wild characters and fun, when really what it's doing is very terrible and destructive to society and all this kind of good stuff. Now, I actually think they're very self-aware. I've never noticed. See, I've seen Mean Streets and Taxi Drivers. Go me. I feel great about that. I've seen The King of Comedy now, and if there's anything I know about Martin Scorsese, it's just he loves Wall Street, and he totally just wants flashy filmmaking with no moral backbone at all. I'm kidding, of course. So I was really interested. I was like, that can't be right. So does this movie cross the line into, is it too masturbatory? Do they get carried away? Or is there more going on here other than just the crazy lewd scene and riding around in Ferraris and the lobster scene? Like, is it just a couple of great vignettes?
That is a great question. It does. I mean, yes, it does cross the line.
That's the question with this movie.
It absolutely crosses the line, but it crosses the line because they did. This was the behavior. Good. This was the behavior. And like, I first watched this before I started taking like contracts in the finance sector, and I'm happy to report the trading floors have mellowed since this. But oh my god, some of the stuff that happens in this movie, you like, at first you're rooting for him, and then he just turns, and you're like, it starts going downhill and downhill and downhill, and like, there is nothing redeemable about Leonardo's character at all. He's just from one. It's literally an angel falling into a demon, and like Scorsese even like, and Leo with the performance like mimic that. Like, he gets more guttural and more demonic during some of the scenes, like when he's talking to the crowd and he's got his chin jutted out and his bottom teeth showing and stuff. He's turned into a fucking demon.
Yeah.
And he's not meant to have limits because he doesn't see himself as having limits. And yes, that crossed the line, but it crossed the line to tell the story of where that line got disintegrated by these people.
Do you notice the irony that there's a very famous part pretty early in the movie, which is, I forget if it's Fortune magazine, where the first one where they call him a wolf. They basically say Jordan Belfort has created a toxic work environment where if you are not jacked up and you're not cursing and you're not, basically hyper masculine, to be completely blunt, right, early 80s, then you're going to fall behind and you're going to fall out of line and out of favor, and you're probably not going to have a job. This is a culture that favors brutality, and it's in Fortune magazine. And then the next day, hundreds of mostly white guys show up at the office because they want to work there. So the article was saying this is bad, and society said we want in. And here we are watching this movie, and that's us, right? We're watching this movie going, this is so interesting. This is crazy, right?
The article is saying this is bad, and he's making all this money.
And you can't escape that.
So they fed them. Like, they fed them. Like, it's bad, but let's face it, like, the dollar is going to win because these guys worship the dollar.
Yeah. Right.
I think there are...
go ahead, John.
Two things. One, to this point you're making. One, Scorsese, this is not the first time that he has been accused of making a masturbatory picture about very controversial subject matter.
Well, definitely did.
A lot of people feel that way about Casino and Goodfellas. Yeah. That it just leans in that direction. And he definitely did it with Goodfellas as well. I think one reason this one rubs some people the wrong way is because it's so hilarious.
Yeah,
it's so
true. It's so funny.
Yeah. That there's an inviting nature to it. So one, that's one point I was going to make. And then the second one is, I think Martin Scorsese is one of those people who loves movies so much that he is unafraid to go into certain subject matter. The only prerequisite is that you need to love learning about stuff through movies as much as he loves making movies. So I'm not discrediting the people who sit on the sidelines of this movie and judge it and say it's masturbatory. I'm not going to say that it's, I don't like that word, but I'm not going to discredit what they are trying to say by that. I think the difference between me and them is that I want to go on the ride because, like you're saying, Jeff, I have faith that he knows what he's doing. What is the substance in this movie? The substance is that he makes you care about vanity. He makes you care about the lack of substance, the materialism. It builds and builds and builds until you start getting hypnotized. Why am I laughing? And why am I on board for this? Even though you know it's going to come crashing down. And then how does he end this motherfucker? He points the camera right at us, looks at that crowd, and then he says, look how fucking desperate you were for coming to this fucking movie in the first place.
You know what? I had a note about this. I think he should have done it more at the end. At the end, basically, if you remember the final scene, Jordan Belfort, who is out of jail now, and I think he's in Australia, Dave. Is that correct?
New Zealand. He's in New Zealand.
New Zealand.
Sorry, man. I never want to confuse the
big
Kiwis
old Auckland.
with
Welcome
to. I'm sorry.
Auckland is in New Zealand, Jeff. Thank you, American education system.
And then he does the callback where they're like, "This man knows how to sell. He's the best seller in the world, right? This motherfucking criminal." And then he walks up with the pen, call back to earlier scene, and he goes up to people one by one and he said, "Sell me this pen." And they're all bombing the sales pitch. And then the camera kind of goes from Leo's point of view and it looks at the crowd. And again, primarily white, which is on purpose. It is showing kind of like that. Well, we're saying white supremacist culture maybe is unfair, but maybe not. So take it for what you will. But they are predominantly white people who want to take advantage of this system. And it kind of pans up, but it's a little too like kind of cute for me. I think he should have gone full Taxi Driver at the end and basically been like, look at these fucking idiot, ugly ass asshole people. And I'm not saying that should be the takeaway. You should leave this movie and saying, fuck these people. But at the same time, it was a little too pretty at the end for me. So even though that's what he was going for, John, I don't know if it landed as well.
You know what I think would have redeemed it right at the end? It was if someone had turned around and said, no, you don't want this pen.
See, I think but this is what Scorsese, this is why he doesn't cross the line into the masturbatory thing, is that Scorsese's too good of an artist to make propaganda. He wasn't trying to say, this is wrong.
That's the thing. He didn't give anyone what they wanted.
No one gets what they want, especially the audience
Especially
members.
women.
Like
women don't like this movie as much as men. It's just the truth.
I mean, there's a very good reason.
I mean, guys, there's definitely part of me who wished in the middle of watching this that I could have gotten one of those penicillin shots they get after a crazy weekend, because you feel disgusting. You feel like you are contracting STDs just watching this fucking thing, and you feel like you're getting more and more addicted to the idea of having money. But we'll get to the big structural issue. I think a lot of people think this one's way too long. It's in his really long part of his canon.
It doesn't suffer for it, though.
It is structured. I don't think so either. I think it has a good pace, and it's structured really well.
I'm normally the one to talk about pacing, and this does not suffer for it.
So that this one, the best scene in this movie is on the yacht between him and Kyle Chandler. And
oh my God, yeah.
So perfectly. It's just when you feel like you are suffocating, one, from the stimulus that's happening on the screen, the actual spectacle, the humor, the insanity that you're watching, but also two, you become, at that point in the movie, you're becoming pretty aware that you feel wrong watching it. There is something that I think you're supposed to be stirred up at that point. And then right in the middle of this film, he starts getting investigated by the FBI, and Kyle Chandler plays the agent. And they have a really
that may be some masterful placement, to be honest, because like at that point you're like, holy shit, I can't take this guy anymore.
And even the way
you get just a hint of a downfall, and you're like, oh, hang on, he might get what's coming to him.
Even the way that scene plays out, it's so nuanced in the face of a film that is so intensely in your face. The turn in this movie on this yacht scene is so nuanced, and it doesn't happen until the very end. So that when he finally gets to the point where he calls him out and says, "Can you say that again exactly how you just said that?" Like you just start to make the turn just a hair, and you start to immediately breathe a little bit deeper, because the thing you're kind of hoping will happen at the end of this is some kind of catharsis, that there's a little bit of hope. And I'm going to take it even further and say that Scorsese tells the line so well from there that if you think you were coming in to just watch the downfall of this terrible capitalist, he turns the screw even more on you, because in a way he wins at the end of this movie. He doesn't get every cent he's ever made, but he certainly did not lose everything.
No.
So I feel like that's also his biggest lesson.
After the first half of, or 2/3 of the film, the downfall is definitely, you want to see the downfall. Like, you want to see him go down, because at this point they've been fucking disgusting.
Yeah, for sure.
And you guys, I can't help it. I'm just going to say it. We have a president that I think represents this kind of lifestyle for a long time. He did, and I couldn't help but start. I was trying to think about how badly I wanted Jordan Belfort to get to lose, and it's just people like that. Of course, Trump's all over everything, so you think about him, but it's people like that, and it really is. That's another question. I wonder if Scorsese was trying to ask that. What's that great line where he says, Jordan says, "Yeah, at least I get fucked, but when I get fucked, I go wearing a $3,000 suit and I drive up in a limo," or something like that. Like, when I go to court, I go in a $3,000 suit and a limousine. And then, does our culture still reward people who were doing the worst things you can imagine? Did he actually challenge himself? He said, "I've squeezed a guy's head in a vice before in a different movie. I've done the blood and gore. I'm going to do everything else that you're not supposed to do. And Americans are going to fucking love it, because that is what we reward in this country." And I think he pulled it off. I think you just feel like shit when it's over, because it's true.
It definitely rubs some things in your face that you do not want rubbed in your face.
Yeah. And also, that's interesting. Well put, Dave.
That comment that comment has levels.
Are you talking about a heart? There is an erect penis. What in this movie?
No, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah.
Jonah Hill. Don't we see it twice? Don't we see his dick twice?
It's prosthetic, though.
It's prosthetic. He's not whipping that out.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, and so the real downfall happens when there's a rescue mission that happens, and they called in a plane to get them, and they're traveling to hide his money abroad. I think so. And then the plane crashes and people die, and Jordan doesn't even tell the other people on the boat, "Oh my God, that plane just crashed. I was supposed to get us." He's the only one that knows it, but he knows that that
I feel like that
has to change. But
that particular scene was almost like a Shakespearean soliloquy. That was his experience alone, because the plane crash didn't actually happen in that vicinity. Like, it didn't crash next to the boat, but that plane did crash. So that was his experience alone. It was their way of communicating. Yeah. It was almost a soliloquy. So no one else experienced their plane crash.
Yeah, that was cool. You're right, Dave. That's
how
good.
Crazy.
But it was to John's point,
that was a great technique, though, that they used there for that.
That's
But
so
back to
interesting
John's
that you
point
said
about-
that. Jeff, real fast, don't forget what you're going to say, just because I want to point out that this whole movie is him telling us. He's narrating this whole thing right to camera the entire time. I'm just curious for you why
Until
you
the
felt,
end. He
'cause I
doesn't
agree with
narrate
you.
the end.
Why did you feel like that moment felt so intimate with just him? Do you think it's because he wasn't actually talking to us that time? He did. He narrated.
he did
it to
talk
us,
to
but
us.
he
He
didn't
talked to
tell
us.
I mean,
us.
there's I only counted like one
he
time where he
narrated
actually
it, right?
let- where he
it's a
actually
voiceover.
eyeballed the camera. But yeah, he was looking out the window, and yeah, it was
Yes.
this plane explodes, and he's like, "Did you see that? Yeah, that actually happened." And
Dave, you're totally God. Thank you for pointing that out. He's not looking at us. He doesn't speak directly to camera in that moment. It's a voiceover.
no, he only
He's
does it
looking at
once.
the camera.
Yeah,
Correct.
Oh, that's brilliant. Sorry,
It's
Jeff, keep
really,
going.
really
That's good.
Well, I was
Good-
going to
good
say back
call.
to your point about the boat with Kyle Chandler, which is also my favorite scene. I think most people want to see the lewd scene with the lemons, the slow release ones where he drives the Ferrari and crashes.
We'll get there.
And we'll get there in a second too. And I think a lot of people also want to see his speeches. Like I visited LA recently, and my friend Justin Wooten just kept saying, "I'm not fucking leaving. I'm not fucking leaving. I'm not fucking leaving."
I'm not fucking leaving.
Also, this is a side note. I have met Steve Madden a couple times because I'm an educator, and somehow, long story short, I crossed paths with Steve Madden. So I had to listen to his "How I Built This," which is an NPR podcast about CEOs and entrepreneurs. And they asked him about, because Steve Madden did go to jail, which they don't talk about in the film. But they said, look, people know who you are because of Wolf of Wall Street. So you're going to have to talk about this scene. And he goes, yeah, I was doing really well as a salesperson. And then my high school friend called me up and said he wanted to take me public. And I said, fuck yeah, let's do it. And the scene in the movie was surprisingly accurate. Was Steve Madden's quote.
Sure.
He said he walked up there and he thought he was going to explain the products they were going to be selling. And then Steve Madden realized in that interview, legitimately, in the interview, in the room, they weren't selling a product. None of those people were selling a product. They were selling an idea, and that idea was how to make me self-rich. So anyway, long story short, back to what I was saying to you about a second ago. The Kyle Chandler scene is really interesting, and it really is the turning point. And to everybody out there that does think it's masturbatory, just rethink this part. Because when Kyle Chandler leaves the boat and Leo starts throwing money and lobsters at him as he's walking away, and that's really Kyle Chandler's
Fun time
introduction to this
coupons.
movie, which is
Right.
the fun coupons, just fun coupons, the $100 bills. And he's like, hey, I'm gonna go like snort some whatever off of whatever. The rest of the movie, he knows he's breaking the law. He knows he's doing everything wrong. He knows he's a crook. He knows he's a criminal. He knows he's a phony. He knows he's a liar. So the question is, because we're laughing at the funny things, does that mean that it's the movie's fault that we are now obsessed with this? Or is it just that we didn't notice the mirror that's pointing at us? I think I would love for everybody else to give it a rewatch and give it to us.
yeah.
I would love to start. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No,
I was just gonna get to some funnier moments, but we can keep
we're gonna
talking
get
about serious like
we're gonna
this,
get there.
but-
Just spinning off that Kyle moment. It's so obvious. It's a classic technique. He just bookends it. The first conversation, the one we're talking about in the yacht, Leo's character Jordan asks him, like, do you ever get tired of wearing the same suit to work every day? And he's like, yeah, every time I'm on the subway. So of course they do a callback and they show you that scene at the end. But again, it's placed so well in the edit so that when Kyle is finally redeemed for all his hard work, he did the right thing. He busted him, got him in jail, and he is sitting on the subway. And it's just such a perfectly timed moment where Scorsese just gently reminds you one more time, because it's not clear how they film it. Is Kyle proud of this, or does he still kind of hate the fact that he's as poor as all these desperate fucks on this subway with him? There's just enough ambiguity on there so that you can't quite, he's not telling you which human you were supposed to be. He's saying that both of these people exist, and our culture just thrives on the fact that that we have these people that we raise way up. Anyway, you're totally right. Dave, unless you had something else to talk about, I think we should say that we love this movie, and let's start praising the fuck out of it.
I have one quick shout out for Kristen Milioti again, who I mentioned in Palm Springs. So like she's in the movie for what, 15 minutes and manages to destroy you in one scene.
I mean,
they do a good job with her too, because I forgot they were married at the pool party where he meets Margot Robbie.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they look outside and Kristen Milioti is like snooping a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I know. But it was funny because when that happened, I was like, oh my God, I'm like, obviously I'm rooting for Leo and Margot Robbie because I know what's coming. But I mean, one of my favorite lines in the movie is the first time they go on a date, and again, he's married, and we were just reminded that he's married, and he goes like, "How do I get up into her apartment?" as he's dropping her off, and she goes, "Hey, you want to come up for some tea and something?" Which is really fucking funny because who invites anybody up for tea?
And nobody meant to.
He basically goes like, "Tea?" And she's like, "Yeah, it's a tea." He's like, "Okay," and in his head, he's like, "Yeah, I want to come up for some fucking tea." Yeah, of course I want to come up for some fucking tea. Like, who would want to go for some tea? Anyway,
the fun stuff that I found, the 1% domestic that they have, him and Margot Robbie, when they're arguing over all this stuff that, like, they're supposed to be happy, they're living in a fucking mansion, and they're still arguing over the stupidest, pissiest things.
Yeah, he took a helicopter home from work.
Yeah,
like, come on.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
wait.
right,
Before we get to the silly stuff,
let's do it.
Question though. And this is a big one because a lot of people thought that Leo was going to sneak up and win this Oscar, and Matthew McConaughey decided it was his year or whatever. He lost 50 pounds, and he played like an AIDS person who came around.
I mean, he also nailed his scene at the beginning of this film because McConaughey's in it too.
Yeah, and he had not gained that weight back yet when he filmed this Wolf of Wall Street scene. But anyway, Matthew McConaughey was awesome. I don't mean to put him down, but this is up there for the Leonardo DiCaprio performances, right? We don't need to like rank them, but it has his charisma, it has his range. He, to me, and John, maybe you can agree with me on this or not, he's one of our best impediment actors on the planet, meaning not just dialect, but also physical impediments. If you look at the Departed scene where you get the cast smashed, right? If you look at Blood Diamond when he gets shot, like this is, and so now he's doing drugs and all this stuff, like, oh no, yeah. So this is up there for the Leonardo DiCaprio list. Like this is one of his best performances. Great,
Leo, this is for you, dude.
What are we listening to, Dave?
The gush alarm has happened.
Going off. Oh my god! All right, I'll wait for that. But
you're totally right, dude. I mean, let's lean into it right now. Scorsese always gets amazing performances out of people. Leo has collaborated with him 5 times. This was the 4th or 5th.
Wait, I think it's been more than 5 by now, but. Do you want to do this?
I couldn't tell you.
The Aviator.
Okay. Yeah.
This Departed and the
Shutter Island.
Shutter Island. And, right? Is that it? Anyway, so this is Leo DiCaprio in every single frame of this fucking picture, and this is a long movie, and he puts this thing on his back, and he does not stop. He doesn't just not stop, and he does his job really well. He's at an 11. Entire fucking film.
This is a performance that makes you hate the man, then feel sorry for the man, then love the man, then hate the man, then love the man again, then feel sorry for the he's just turning you on a dime in every scene.
Just as an actor, the storytelling. I'm sure Martin Scorsese. It's great to have him as your director. And all these wonderful actors that are around him. He's doing a great job. I'm sure they're helping a lot, but there are so many scenes where it's not about Jordan, and he is so humbly just there. He's so present. He's such a good scene partner to whoever the scene is about. He's there for the improv. If it's about the improv, he's there to just listen. Some of my favorite scenes are when he's just sitting there watching Kyle talk to him, or he's just watching
the Mad Max scene where he just throws his 2 cents worth in every now and then, but just lets Jonah Hill go for it.
Yeah, just lets Jonah go crazy.
That is the mark of a consummate performer, when they can step back and let someone else have it.
That scene, when he finally gets all his drug dealer friends together when he's about to start it, and they're eating and no one will listen to him, and that guy keeps just talking about nonsense, and you can see him just getting so frustrated. He doesn't pull out and scream and dominate the scene. He calls him out, but he's just so present. He's such a part of the group that it's way more. I think a lesser actor would have only done this entire movie the way he does his giant speeches, which, he brings it when you need to bring it. But I think a lesser actor would have tried to just bulldoze everybody because I'm Jordan Belfort and I've got money and a dick. And I felt for something that is this bombastic,
he made him a person.
He found every nuance he possibly could. It is layered.
When he got roiled,
absolutely a 3-dimensional performance.
Yeah. But and when he got roiled up, he didn't turn into like a professional wrestler as some actors do. You know what I mean? All of a sudden, it's like they can bench 500 pounds. Like when they get angry, like he was still very clearly this, slummy Wall Street guy.
When he was flawed, he played it flawed. When he was on top, he played it on top. When he when he wanted to be charming, he played it charming. Like he was everything.
Yeah, this is a great Leo performance.
This is a phenomenal performance, and the fact that he got snubbed for an Oscar for this really fucking pisses me off.
Yeah. His
His
argument,
fights with Margot
yeah.
Robbie. It's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Especially when
All of them,
especially when the
too.
kids are around. When the kids are around and they're having arguments. Well, Daddy over here, and they're like arguing in weird voices. His arguments with Rob Reiner, who plays his father, really fucking funny.
Jesus, hilarious. And also the touching stuff with Rob Reiner at the end when his dad's like, "You give up, son. You walk away."
Yeah.
When they're at that watching the horse, and you can just see nothing has changed in terms of like relationship and stuff. He's not like playing the sad scene at the end. It's still the same humans. Right. It's just so fucking grounded. It's almost another reason why I think sometimes there's almost like a voyeuristic quality to watching something like this, that masturbatory part of it. Like, it's so well done that part of you feels a little nasty for taking part in it because it's not the movie version. It's painfully realistic, even with all that crazy music and all the guys beating the shit out of each other and fucking each other right on the trading floor. It's too real in some aspects. Jonah Hill, everyone knows the story about how he took a massive price cut. I think he made 70. Something like 70 grand.
They made him take the minimum.
Made him take the minimum, and he said, "Fuck yeah,
Leo
let's
got
do
30. Leo got 30 million.
30.
He was a producer on it, so
I mean, come on, come on. He gave it. All of his friends are really great. The guy who plays the Punisher, what's that guy's name?
John Bernthal.
Walking Dead.
Yeah,
really good.
He's great in everything.
All the scenes between him and Jonah Hill are those when they're fucking mad at each other. Fucking hilarious, dude.
Oh, the Jonah
Hill. It's hilarious and horrifying at the same time. You're like, oh my god, make it stop. But they play it so well.
Well, she's alive, so my life's hell. Like,
so my life's
it's terrible, but it's true.
There's not a bad performance in this. To be honest,
no. There's only amazing performances.
It is worth
in this.
every 3 hour, like all 3 hours of it.
So yeah, let's talk about really fast. Unless you guys are totally done, we kind of touched on it earlier, but the length of this film. His long movies in general bother some people. Again, I might go back to the thing. You kind of have to love movies to love Martin Scorsese's movies nowadays, because you really want to sit down and watch a long movie, and he's going to go all the way with character and everything. But I still say that this one, maybe it's because there's so much humor in it, and it's got such a momentum and a real high octane. I did not get bored.
No,
I was entertained the whole time. You could make the argument that maybe that scene didn't move the story forward enormously with how long compared to how long the scene was, but fuck you if you're not entertained. Like, give me a break.
It's almost like even the editing was down to perfection. It's like just when you're starting to feel, is this guy going to get busted or what? Things start to go sideways.
Yeah. And those speeches.
I mean,
it's like
and that brings us to That brings me to the lewd scene. There is only one piece of information that is delivered in that entire sequence. It's that the FBI has tapped his phone. That's it. Yeah. That's all the audience needs to know. And then before we move forward, we need to learn that. And then Jordan needs to realize that Jonah Hill's character dropped the ball on John, what's his name's character, and got him arrested. So that's two pieces of information that could have been delivered in a much quicker way. But I don't want it any other way.
And it
that
wasn't.
Entire sequence is incredible, dude.
Yeah, that is a great scene. And it's infamous.
So, is that masturbatory? Is that masturbatory filmmaking? Did we just want to see acting like people on drugs? I kind of don't give a shit.
I feel like the flight where Leo has to go on a flight and he has to get tied down because he's on so many drugs.
It only gets masturbatory if you're sitting there going, okay, I've got the point, move on. And that didn't happen for me.
He's too good at making movies. They're too good at acting. Again, I respect you if you think like this crosses the line, but I don't think
it definitely crosses the line, but
credit.
Like they started it.
If you see, if you see the film and say like, well, I already know what's gonna happen. You know, Crook gets caught and then he has to run from the feds because it's his own fault. If that's all you take away from this movie, then fine. But there is a lot of nuance in there. There's a lot of detail, and really, honestly, the supporting cast is so good that focus on everybody around him. You know, look at every single person that's following him. Everybody else in this movie who's not Leo, like, should they bear some blame here? Like every single wife, best friend, like should everybody? No, should anybody be completely off the hook? I think that's a different way of looking at the movie that might be interesting.
That scene when they come in and arrest people.
And everybody's up.
It kind of like, how do you feel at that point? It's in slow motion. Are you excited they're getting arrested? Like he gives you these moments to kind of sit back for a second and ask yourself, whose side am I on? Like, is everyone accountable? Am I accountable?
The real Jordan Belfort is the Auckland host at the end of the movie who introduces Jordan Belfort.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. That's good.
This is written by Terrence Winter, who famously like co-executive produced The Sopranos. and then eventually vinyl, and a lot of other amazing things. Scorsese's worked with him a couple times. Fantastic writer.
You know what? I think we've sold it as much as we possibly can.
Yeah.
What is y'all's funniest, like your favorite? Let's just stop with that. I just want to hear your favorite, funniest moment that you just fucking piss yourself when you think about it, or if every time you rewatch it, you're like, God, it's still funny. Is there one scene or one moment or anything that just gets you?
No, there's several actually where they like the narration says one thing and the cutaway says another. Like it's like I made it home safely, and then they show what happened to the car.
Oh yeah, the cars.
The reveal of the car.
And the reveal of the car happens 5 minutes later, and it's still fucking funny.
Oh, that whole thing when they wake him up. Is the way he plays when they waking him up is great. Jeff, how about you? Is it any standouts?
The lemon scene stands up for me. The Kyle scene on the boat stands up for me. But it's always sound bites that stand up for me for some reason. So definitely, I'm not fucking leaving. But for some reason, I don't know why, because I've never done this and I never will. But sometimes Jonah Hill just going, smoke crack with me. Come on, smoke crack with me. Why don't you smoke crack with me? Just be a man and fucking smoke crack with me. It's like, it's such a weird thing.
It's such a good little scene.
It's such a weird scene. Or even just that thing that's in the trailer, so it's almost overdone, where Jordan goes like, you show me a check for $72,000, I quit my job right now, I work for you. And to that, where they show Leonardo DiCaprio doing the sales pitch for one of the penny stocks, and they're building military style satellites, and there's a cut.
That scene is one of my favorites.
And it's like a shack in somebody's backyard that has like a handwritten sign above it. And this is the like military defense contract that Leo's selling for fucking penny stocks. Yeah.
All right.
Anyway, that's it. That's yeah. Sorry, John. You finish.
My favorite, my brother and I'll talk about this moment all the time. It's just another. It's the quality of the production when they're like, no way, we are going to fucking Catalina. We're going tonight. Just a little chop. It's just gonna be a little chop, and then it cuts to the storm, and they're in this gigantic storm. And that just the cut is hilarious on its own. But when Jordan comes in and he's just screaming, "What the fuck is going on?" You just
also the lead up to that is the captain trying to be calm when he knows this is going to go fucking pear shaped.
Mm-hmm. Cuts him and he's screaming, "Hold on!" God, it's just God. Yeah, the commitment. It's too funny.
All right, we got to wrap this up and move on.
We should wrap up. All right, we're going to come back. We are going to talk about the Academy Award winner for Best Original Screenplay, written by Spike Jonze, who is also the director. Her. See you in a second, film fans. And we're back!
We're back! Did you hit something when you yelled that?
I'm not fucking leaving! I'm not fucking leaving! We should also mention, John and I forgot to mention that both John and I had the fun pleasure of watching this with our family as full-grown men. I saw this on Christmas Day, which was when this movie came out. Christmas Day, 2013. And my brother sat next to my mom, and this movie opens with like, yeah, that's me, like getting blown in my fucking Ferrari with like Coke on it. And I was just, like, literally, my brother was like, God damn it. Like, we have 3 hours.
He does a line out of a stripper's asshole.
There were a lot of buttholes. Even Leo got some butthole stuff going on. Anyway. Sorry, we're doing so good keeping this, PG-13. Mom. We should mention there's a parental advisory here.
No. Jeff's not on the next week's episode. She's actually grounded because of this episode.
That's right.
He is literally at home, so he is at his childhood home.
Right now, so that would actually make total sense. I have to stay in this room because of my antics on the podcast. Guys, we're back. Jeffrey? We're going to be talking about the film Her. H-E-R, Her. Really annoying title if you want to Google stuff. Her movie Her. It's like
also do not hit the microphone and try and search it for it on your Apple TV because it goes, sorry, I can't do that.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it will not look. It will not look for her.
It will look for her movie if you do.
Yeah, you got to do her movie. All right, we're yada yada yada. We know this film. Joaquin Phoenix. He starts dating his operating system, which is really his phone, but his whole operating system came out in 2013, kind of ahead of its time, I guess, with that premise. It's sort of futuristic. It's sort of like Blade Runner meets some of 2001: A Space Odyssey, except he starts dating Hal.
Jesus.
No, it's Blade Runner 2049 meets something.
This is not like nothing you've ever seen before.
Yes, it is. It's a futuristic LA. So there's your Blade Runner reference. And anyway, he dates his computer. Starring Joaquin Phoenix. He is a lonely writer.
Isn't it set in 2017?
I mean, come on. Okay, good. You know what? Fuck you. We're gonna do this right off the bat. I was gonna wait till later. I want to talk about the economy in her.
Wait, set it up really quickly. He's a writer. Finish setting it up and then go off.
He's a writer who writes personalized greeting cards on behalf of other people who don't write their own goddamn greeting cards. So like, I love you, honey. You're the best. This is a poem from Jeff, but I didn't actually write it, and the person who receives it even knows that it came through a surrogate. So it's actually pretty clever from Spike Jonze, because this is a person who is going through a divorce. He's divorcing Rooney Mara. Also ironic because Joaquin Phoenix met Rooney Mara, who he ended up marrying on the set of this. Well, he met her on the film, and he ended up marrying her before his Oscar-winning turn in Joker. Anyway, so the character that Joaquin Phoenix plays, Theodore, dresses like a 70-year-old man in the 70s and writes personalized greeting cards, going through a divorce, and then he starts trying to meet women, and he downloads a new operating system, which I believe is the OS 1.
Yes.
It's
an AI. Yeah.
He's an AI. It's an AI. It's voiced by Scarlett Johansson after they fire the original girl, whose original name was Samantha. And he falls in love with his operating system because the operating system is designed to be his... It's like if Siri loved you. That's what this movie is. That's the setup. Can we talk about the movie or what?
Yeah, go off. I want to hear your...
It's so clever because the first time I saw this movie, I wanted to walk out because I was bored. But in hindsight, I don't disagree with that opinion. But watching it this time, I have a greater respect for it. Was that a buzz, Dave? Could you hear?
Yeah, that was a buzz. Fuck you. Yeah, Jake, keep going.
But no, I do have a much grown appreciation for this movie, especially on the rewatch this time. And there were a lot of fantastic scenes. It definitely should have won the Oscar for Best Original Screenplay, which it did for Spike Jonze, who, by the way, got famous for doing Jackass. So, you know... Well, but he's awesome. He was once married to Sofia Coppola, who apparently was based a lot of their breakup, their divorce, when she wrote Lost in Translation, which won her an Oscar. And
you have said zero about this movie so far.
Okay, hold on. So anyway, I find it ironic. Well, I want to talk about the economy of LA in whatever year this movie's placed, because this guy lives in an apartment that is at least $4,000 a month by New York standards. The ceilings are 20 feet high. It's a true one bedroom. It's got like 800 square feet, modern amenities. It's got full service. It's got elevator, doorman. It is a beautiful building. And this person writes greeting cards. So I don't know what economy they're living in, but it is not one that we live in right now. So that's fantastic. But the irony of this guy who's dating an operating system and then gets upset that she's dating other people, when this guy's job is to be a surrogate for other people. His literal job is to help people connect. And now here he is struggling to connect with humanity. So therefore he starts to date his operating system. I actually appreciated that significantly in the second go around. And even though, generally speaking, different from Wolf of Wall Street, movies that are paced, forget about the pace, movies that have the same tone throughout. The tone for 2 hours is pretty much the same. Movies like that, I tend to get bored of, and I tend to start wondering why action doesn't force the tone to evolve with the film. I question, and I questioned it less this time. I appreciated it more, and it becomes more of a cautionary tale to me this time than the first time, which was more of a love story. More of just like a 21st and a half century love story. That's my speech. All right, I'll move on. Who wants to go next?
Dave, what do you think, dude? This was your second time seeing it?
Yeah, it was second time seeing it. Fun fact, I don't know whether you came across this, but Spike Jonze has an uncredited cameo in Wolf of Wall Street. If you look at his IMDb page, he's uncredited for a cameo in Wolf of Wall Street. Yeah.
Oh my god, I gotta find it.
You couldn't write it.
His voice work is really fucking funny, and her too, by the way. But anyway, go on.
I do love that I read on IMDb, the cinematographer went to the extent of altering all the windows on the 38th floor of this building so that they could get the proper amount of light in, and then that still wasn't enough, so he went to the helicopter pad of the building next door and put fucking mirrors on it to redirect the sunlight. I'm like, so cool. You gotta respect that level of taking control of your lighting.
Yeah, It's gorgeous. I think part of my Blade Runner 2049 thing was also in the way that it looks, which is very, very high class. The scale, and that's a compliment because Deakins did Blade Runner 24, and I believe Deakins is the hero of this podcast so far.
I mean, you guys, this is
yes, he
it
is.
looks stunning. It looks beautiful.
This is Hoyte van Hoytema, right? He's Chris Nolan's guy.
Oh yeah.
He did Ad Astra. He's done Tenet. Tenet's coming out. I don't know if we talked about it yet, but Tenet's coming
Have
out.
you talked about Tenet coming out?
Actually,
I think there's a movie called Tenet that's coming out.
Tenet has actually held its release date for 2 weeks, so we need a fanfare for Tenet.
Hooray, Tenet. All right, so that's Hoyte van Hoytema. So yeah, this guy knows what the fuck he's doing, and how exciting is it to see someone stretch their legs away from that kind of style that they become known for. So like you see his crisp, tight, really free yet still extremely spectacular cinematography in the Nolan movies. And then you have something like this that opens on the softest, most delicate close-up I think I may have ever seen. The first shot of the whole fucking movie, it tells you everything you need to know about how it's going to look and feel, like visually and aesthetically. I could say the same thing for the music, those chords, Arcade Fire to the score to this, the chords at the beginning of this. Jeff, I know what you mean.
Definitely some wonderful things in this.
Oh yeah, I respect what you're saying about the how the tone doesn't change much. It doesn't bother me though, and I feel like whenever a movie can help you zero in on whatever the essential nature is of that tone, whatever that bullseye is, the quicker they can get you there, or if they want to toe the line and then help you deliver you there, that can be powerful as well. This one hits it right off the bat. You know what this movie is going to look and feel like when you hear those chords before you ever actually see anything. And it just doesn't let you down. What is surprising to me is that, and I hope we can just talk about this a lot, because I feel like the magic of Her is that it is technically a sci-fi movie. It is a sci-fi movie that touches on every hard sci-fi question other sci-fi movies touch on, but instead of hate and existentialism and power and theology, they do it with love. And it is like, that's why this is more than a love story to me, is because he uses love as a vehicle to discuss the human experience. I don't think by the end of this movie, you are only feeling one way or the other about Joaquin and whether or not he should get on the horse again and maybe try to date Amy Adams' character, or maybe he's made peace with it. It tackles the full spectrum of ambiguity on everything that happens to human beings because we are bound to relationships. And I think it comes down to that one moment where he freaks out when she won't answer the phone, or she won't answer the phone, when he puts her in his ear and she's not there, and he's freaking out, and he sits down on the steps and he has that scene, and she admits to him that she's talking to other people, and he's looking at people walking past him on the stairs, and no one is talking to each other. They have created all this amazing love and relationships with this new artificial OS system, and it has completely stopped human relationships.
Yeah. Incidentally, for anyone who's ever done the dating scene in New York, you'll recognize the conversation where she says she's dating 640 other people.
Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah, been there. Yeah.
Yeah,
there is a quote that I just want to throw out there. So they talk about this. This movie is very meta too. I also think it's so well written that kind of like, God damn, you guys, what were we talking about? Kiss the Spider one, where I just could not shut the fuck up about how meta it was, how aware of itself it was. Every fucking movie, but that one especially. So they introduced the quote, "Memory is a story we tell ourselves," pretty early, right? When she first has that little epiphany about how, when, I was thinking about when you said something that upset me and I couldn't stop thinking about it. And then I realized I was just telling myself that I was upset, that I was telling myself I was inferior. And I realized that memory is a story we tell ourselves. I want to go back to last week, Jeff, because I could not stop thinking about this when I was watching it this week. When you made that side comment, I was more interested. Last week you said this. I was more interested in the flashbacks with Rooney Mara. I was more interested in that movie than this movie. Mm-hmm. So while I was watching this one, I kept thinking, because I love those two, and you're supposed to. They're perfect. They're not real. They are these false projected snapshots of perfection because he told a story to himself about, it was his reason why he could stop living, is because he lived something that was so good, or that he thought was so good, he'll never have anything else. That quote in the beginning about how I'm feeling things,
Oh, we are witnessing our second gush wording of the show. But John, please finish your thought.
Yeah, let me finish that. Or that line at the beginning where he's like, sometimes I feel like I felt everything I'll ever feel, ever worth feeling, and I'm just going to try to compare everything to what I've already felt. I don't know. I think Spike Jonze knew how to use this medium and writing to consistently comment on itself as you are capturing this moment right now. You are experiencing this moment right now. And yet you will look back on it as something higher than what it was, because most of us are too fucking chicken shit to actually embrace what's happening to us and to live in our current relationships. And I'm not just talking about love. I'm talking about your relationship with yourself, everything. And I feel like this movie sneaks sci-fi messaging into it so well with romance that every time I watch it, I'm just in awe.
No, Spike
Dave, did you feel that way about the sci-fi stuff? I know you're a big sci-fi fan too.
Not really. I mean, the sci-fi stuff served the story. And I must admit, the scene, like the thing that brings it back to reality, is the scene they have at the table with his ex-wife, and it makes both of them face the reality of what the situation is, and that is where things kind of, again, in response to to Wolf of Wall Street, that's where things start to go a little bit wrong for him. But I do actually really follow. I do subscribe to what you said about they do it with love. Like everything in this film is done with love. Even the end where all the AIs have kind of ascended, and the separation at the end of him with her is done with love. It's like, if you ever get to where I'm going, follow me. You'll find me.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
And it's that sort of thing. It's like, because sometimes, yes, you do. Sometimes people are at different stages in their life. They're at different points in their life with doing things, and that does really, really like hammer that home.
I think it's funny too. I mean, so you can tell. Sorry, you go ahead.
I also think this is also a meditation on loss, and I think he proves to you by the end that, like, it literally, they leave everyone, they ascend or whatever the fuck, achieve the singularity, and they've left these humans alone. And suddenly all these broken people who were convinced, for whatever reason, I'm more comfortable dating an AI system because I've had bad experiences with people, or I've never had it work out or had the courage to try it with a real person. They suddenly realize, because of the loss, that they are more grateful for their current relationships.
That's a human thing.
It's
a human thing as well. Like, when your relationships crumble, you check out from reality a little bit. And, it's like, the 38, 40-year-old man who suddenly starts dating an 18-year-old because his marriage failed. It's that. So how do you, it's like the AI is the 18-year-old.
So how do you accept it? How do you hear these big platitudes about loss and everything? This movie shows you that, just like everything else as a human, you love your loss. It's only at the end, when he looks at Amy and they're on the roof, that they both kind of realize it's because of our loss that we're here. We're only better people, and having gone through all that stuff and realizing and how grateful we are because we have finally learned to love. Yeah. That line when she says, I've never loved anyone the way I loved you. And she says, now we know how, before she leaves. Like, unbelievable.
And I mean, they're all great messages. If only it didn't take so fucking long to get there.
I'm kind of with.
Was it sap? Yeah, did it sappy? Did it get sappy for you?
Not so much sappy. It was like certain scenes just started to, like, your driving points home that we've already got, move on. It's the opposite of Wolf of Wall Street, where the pacing was like on. For me, on a second watch, I had the opposite effect of Jeff. I started to get bored. I started to check out. The beginning is long, and then it gets to the point where you're like, okay, I'm interested in this again, and things are moving, and things are developing, and you're seeing character development, stuff like that. And then the ending, again, just slows to a crawl.
I agree, Dave. I agree. I think for me this time, the first hour and 15 minutes out of the 2 hours, I was more eager and excited because and it's not just Joaquin, who I thought was incredible. It is Spike Jonze. Spike Jonze is the hero of this movie by far. To your point before about the ascension at the end, there's two things about that I took away. Number one is the irony that she admits, Samantha, which is Scarlett Johansson's character, when she first is introduced, she said, I'm an OS, but I'm designed to learn from you. So I'm here. That's her function. And then also, at the end, when all the... Sorry,
to anyone listening, in this world that they've set up and the rules that they've set up, it is perfectly acceptable to be dating an OS. They established that.
Well,
So
not
this
perfectly acceptable, but it is
to some people.
fairly
Like,
acceptable.
not okay. Telling your ex-wife you're dating a computer is the mother of all bad fucking life choices. So let's face it, that's not going to go well no matter what.
Yes,
But like, yeah, to everyone else, like everyone else that he mentions it to, they're accepting of it. So they're at a point
Chris
where
Pratt,
dating an OS is acceptable in this world.
the Chris Pratt scene where, hold on, there's so much to talk about. Wait, first things first, the two takeaways at the end is they finally learn from all the humans and then they leave, but they don't give them the information. They don't tell Joaquin. It says, so I've been studying you and this. They don't give him a report because it's basically like modern science, right? It's all about the alleviation of pain. It's all about the symptoms. It's not about the cause.
Yeah, I'll
right?
tell you what, that final speech though for me was a great thing. I love that final speech
me
that
too.
Scarlett gives.
But yeah, so I took that away. It's like, hey, we're ready to go now. We gathered all the information we want, which, by the way, would never happen nowadays. They would suck you dry of all your fucking information, and they would take it and run and sell it and whatever, and they would leave you bones rotting in the ground. But
dude, it's not the Amazon OS.
Yeah,
we're getting
it's not
sued
the Amazon
again.
or
We're getting
Facebook
sued
or
again.
Google or Walmart. Yeah, here we go. Give us a buzzer for that. Give us a buzz. Okay. I said before I took two things away from that, and I can't remember what the other thing was.
They're about the ascension.
Yeah, whatever. It doesn't matter. Anyway, the thing I want to talk about with the Rooney Mara scene, which is what I love so much, is, and I appreciated it more this time, that scene's the most real, I guess, but that's the whole point of the movie is what is real and what isn't. So two things to what you said and
Rooney
what's
always brings it.
normalized. What's normalized. So I'm going to save the Rooney little thing for a second, but so Chris Pratt is the secretary at the office, and there's a huge irony going on that Joaquin Phoenix, who writes love letters for a living, doesn't talk to a human. So here's this person that literally understands human connection so well that humans pay him apparently a fuck ton of money to write their greeting cards, which, by the way, it seems like Scarlett Johansson's OS could write herself. It seems like this is an industry that could have been automated away at this point of technological advancement. And so he doesn't talk to anybody except for his secretary. So there's an irony there. Spike Jonze, heroism, check. And then he tells Chris Pratt, it's like, hey, I want to meet Samantha because this is my girlfriend. She's awesome. We should go on a double date sometime. And Joaquin just turns around and says, you know what? She's an OS, which is his way of not going on the date because he doesn't want to hang out with them. And Chris Pratt goes, all right, so Saturday? Because he cares so little about it.
Yeah, he says, cool. Yeah. Let's do something fun.
Cool. Yeah, exactly. And the person's not even real. And then he's just like showing his phone around the cliffs. For me, Dave, the irony about that, for me, not about Spike, is that's when I started to lose steam in the movie. Because now he's showing his phone a good time and he's showing him how happy he is. And I'm like, all right, I'm tired of this. That's when I started getting tired of it. And I guess he does in the script a little bit too. But back to the Rooney Mara scene, the brilliance of Spike is that, so even an intermediate to an advanced writer would say divorce signifies an end of one thing and a beginning of a new thing. This is actually two different things that are crossing paths. So it is not the end of their relationship because he goes on to write her a letter later about friendship, not love, although it's a different kind of love. So their relationship is technically not over, even though this is the signing of the divorce papers. But it is also the introduction of he is now dating an OS to Rooney Mara, who does not take it particularly well.
I took it the other way, where that letter is the acceptance of the loss, but that loss is not going to define them.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, great. It's complex, but yeah, but anyway, it's brilliant for Spike because you would think that it's just one thing leading into another, but it's actually all of these things sort of emerging there. And that is why that is the scene of the movie. That is the great scene of this movie because so many things happen. And Spike and Joaquin becomes self-aware. It's both okay to date an OS and it's both inhuman to date an OS. And he realizes it at that moment. And it complicates the relationship with Samantha, which makes it more human because now they're not just a happy-go-lucky, they adapt to whatever each other wants thing. Now there are levels and textures. It is brilliant. It really is.
When he asks Amy Adams, like, when they're talking about whether or not it's a real relationship, and she says, I don't know, I'm not in it. Does it feel like a real relationship?
Yeah.
And that's kind of all it comes down to.
Like
the Rooney Mara thing, remember at the beginning, he tells Samantha that he keeps having this dream where him and Rooney are friends and they're not together, but they don't hate each other anymore. So once again, I feel like he just gave us all these great breadcrumbs to show you that how do you accept loss? You love it. By the end of it, hopefully they do have some kind of peaceful relationship. He was just sick and tired of hating her and wondering if she hated him. And I don't know.
I think
that
that's
really
the
wraps up very well.
self-reflection.
I
The
think the life
self-reflection of
takeaway is
relationships.
sometimes it just doesn't work out, and maybe just be nice about it.
Yeah.
Like it's,
Maybe just be nice about it. She did leave him mysteriously. I did feel bad for him that like both of these women left him without an explanation that could like Sam even tried to explain what was happening, but ultimately she said, "I can't tell you why I'm leaving you."
no,
So
she,
that was,
she
I guess
did.
that was just raising the stakes
I mean,
even more.
she
on
did
why...
if you were there to take it. It was like it's
She
like I'm
did,
reading.
but it's just the same thing as like
my favorite line.
it's not you, it's me.
My favorite. No,
It's
my
not you,
favorite
it's
line
me.
in the movie is that I'm reading a book, and the gaps between the words got longer, and I'm
can't
living
live
in
in
the
a book
gap
anymore.
between the words. Between the words.
So good.
Yeah.
I know,
Her
dude.
book
That
monologue
writing
is
is
good.
on
Yeah.
fucking point. All right. To y'all's point, I will admit this because I felt it a little bit too, because I think my parents were not feeling it as much as I was still enjoying this. I saw this at a very tender time in my life when I was dealing with a big ex breakup and everything. And this was like really good medicine for me. I remember thinking then, and it definitely felt it this time on a rewatch, not with a big audience, just like any really good love story,
Yeah.
you got to want to watch a love story. It is asking that of you from the very beginning. You need to want romance. You need to want every scene to be filled with the human condition and discussing it and talking about it and feeling it and getting hurt and coming back. If you don't want that and you just want a good movie, this might lose you because it is a shameless love story. I mean, it is every scene. It's all they're talking about.
There's a message in there. It takes a while to get to it, and I'm sorry, but the one note I have is like, for fuck's sake, Joaquin, enunciate. Stop mumbling your fucking dialogue.
Oh
It's
no!
a film,
Come on.
it's a film
Fuck
thing with
you.
close-ups.
Fuck you.
Dude, seriously.
Wait,
Once again, let's just say it. By the way, this is 2
I mean,
years in a row.
this is a note I've
This
given,
guy-
like, for sound mixing. Like, if you're turning the volume up and down, you're not paying attention to the movie.
I didn't have that problem.
I had a
Yeah,
sound
I
thing
really
too.
did,
No,
yeah.
I'm with you on Dave. I did have to turn the sound up and down. I did. But another thing
So
I'll say,
James
if you want
Dean,
to talk
Marlon
about,
Brando, and Joaquin Phoenix. Yeah, they're bad actors. Yeah,
Fuck yeah, they are.
That's an issue.
if there's wait, back to John talking about how this
Brando
is like a
could
good,
kiss
like,
my ass.
if you want to see a romantic movie, if you want to see a good romantic movie, the most romantic scene is actually a first date scene with Olivia Wilde as the date, and they're
Oh
like,
my
oh, you
God.
shouldn't date this girl. She looks. I think they actually said, she's fat, which is the Spike Jonze voice in the thing. Oh, she's
Yeah,
fat.
that was
and then
the,
you show up to your date,
the game.
and it's Olivia Wilde.
Dude, the games in this were
The
hilarious.
games are incredible, and they're
That
full
and the mom
3D.
game.
It's,
Spike
it's
Jonze,
great,
dude.
Yeah.
great sci-fi.
That's Spike
yeah.
Jonze.
But also the mom
Spike
game
Jonze is the voice.
that she's working on, that Amy Adams
Yeah,
is
but-
working on. But
yeah,
yeah,
you're a
Olivia,
bad mom.
Yeah,
Olivia
it's just watching
Wilde,
her mom suite.
Olivia Wilde nailed that scene. That was amazing.
She nailed it
She
so
really
much
did.
because they hit it off. And again, Joaquin Phoenix is dressed like a 70-year-old man from the 80s, I don't know, the 60s, whatever. Anyway, and they hit it off and they start making out. And she keeps being like, oh, you need to use less tongue. You need to use more tongue. And it's like, you're going to leave me like all those other guys. And this date just has this weird, like, thing happen to it, even though it seemed to be going extremely well. And it's funny as a romance movie watching this, because he's alone for the most of the movie as far as no humans are concerned. He obviously has the computer, so it's fun watching this with a significant other because he has this thing, and it's like, well, you know what, it's hit its head. It's a dance. It's a pas de deux, if you will, doing this relationship stuff. And fuck all of the romance stories that make it seem like everything's perfect. Because you know what? Some of the best first dates, somebody's going to give you a note and they're going to say, oh my God, this is so great, but can you use less tongue? And if you don't take it well, that ruins everything on your first date.
That's
Yeah,
the takeaway
I thought
there.
this did a really good job.
Take the fucking note.
Yeah.
I thought this did a really good
Well,
job
yeah.
of making you feel, because when you're in the dating world, you do feel like you're dating all these quote humans who don't get you. They're other
Yeah.
people until you meet someone that you get, and you're like, oh my God, I don't have to explain anything to you. I can give you a note in the kissing, and I
Right,
don't feel
right.
like I'm an asshole. And then there are humans that are out there that are dating that I don't understand, and I feel all uncomfortable around them. This
or
movie
we're
does
just-
a great job of that.
Or we're just liars. We just don't tell you anything. We pretend like everything's okay, and then we go home and we go, this fucking sucked. And then you text the person and they go, oh, I don't want to see you again. And it blows your mind.
Great,
'cause
I'll
you're
call
like,
you
I don't
again
know.
sometime.
Yeah, and you're like,
Do
what?
this again.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
anyway, so it's like it's good seeing there's a lot of nuance in the relationship. The few times that you actually see relationship, there's a lot of nuance. It is really well
You guys
done.
will at least.
Yeah.
You guys tell me you'll agree with this though. I feel like this is 2 years in a row. I think Joaquin, he did The Master the year before this. I think he
Yes.
has solidified himself with her of being probably the greatest actor of his generation. That's a big statement, but I think I would feel comfortable making that argument.
He is
David Davis would
absolutely
agree with you.
phenomenal.
Tell me you would at
I
least-
just
yeah,
think this
tell me you
film,
at least admit
this
that
film could have
if
been
this-
30
if
minutes
this-
shorter, but yeah, he's phenomenal.
I mean, okay, but that's what I'm saying. Even if you felt like the film lost some steam, imagine how you would have felt if a less talented actor was in there whispering to nothing. No scene partner.
Yeah, dear
just
God,
fucking
imagine
whispering
if we
in a
had to watch
close-up on his
Leonardo
bed.
DiCaprio do that.
It would have been good.
That would've been great,
Joaquin is up there, and if we give Joker a few more years and we put all the stuff aside, maybe we'll. I agree with you, John. He's
Joker's
definitely
awesome.
somebody
Fuck
that we
you.
should talk
Drink,
about.
Jeff.
No,
He's so good in this
okay,
movie,
whatever.
you guys. How is the same person,
Okay.
Freddie Quill, Theodore, what's his name, and the Joker? Like, it's unbelievable. I mean, it's so tender. You just never see him do work like this. He has such a reputation for playing crazy characters. And then Spike Jonze was like, no, I want to see what happens when we just crack you open. I just want to see how soft you are on the inside. He's so
I
soft.
can't believe the outfits they chose.
so
This is
little.
futuristic, and they dress like my grandpa, and he's a cool guy. It's so wild.
Yeah, but isn't
All
it
right.
effective? That scene with Olivia Wilde. Hold on, that scene with Olivia Wilde. When they cut to when they first show him the large coverage, that master, he is
Yeah.
smaller than she is.
Yeah, she
He's
is so much
dressed
hotter than
smaller,
him. Like,
he's
and he's an
sitting
attractive
smaller.
guy in real life. And anyway, okay, we're gushing about this movie too long. Okay, give her us a watch and tell us what you think, because we've covered a lot of basis about this. And so everything's fair play. You could find it too boring. You could find it the most touching story of all time. And we've covered your point of view. So
no
please
matter what,
talk
it
to us.
is worth a watch.
Yeah, and the writing is
Try to watch
very,
it when
very
you want to
good.
watch a love story, though. Give it a real
Like,
chance
it
when
is-
you're feeling
it is a
emotional.
it's a love story that
Go
you've
there.
never seen before. So definitely,
Right,
if you
for
want,
sure.
if you want something different, go there.
Dave, are you ready to do this? You ready to do a random year generator
I'm
for our next
ready
week?
to
Which,
do
by the way,
this.
I don't have to watch any of these films. So I really hope you choose a shitty year.
All right,
Bad
let's
film fan. Bad film fan. You should still watch.
Yeah,
these films.
right.
All right,
Let's
here we
see
go.
what we got. We got
This is it's for Jack. Here we go.
Ooh, we're going back in time. 1982.
Oh, yeah.
1982.
More
Did you
80s.
just give us a
Here
Back
we
to the
come back.
Future? Did you just give us a Back to the Future reference with Back in Time or what?
I didn't do the guitar riff, but yes.
Doc, we have to go back. 1982. We're gonna take a look at those movies, and we're gonna be right back.
Soon.
Her.
We're back.
We're back.
Musically, we're back.
Did you hear the harmonica?
Somehow there was a harmonica
God.
sitting on my desk when I got home that may have never been touched, and I decided
Oh.
to put my mouth straight on
yeah,
it in
wow.
the age of coronavirus.
In the age of Corona, they're good for you. Yeah, take that. Take that.
1982. What a film year that I don't have to care about because I'm not going to be here next week. But kudos
Oh.
to you guys. Can't wait to
Bad
hear
film
what you're doing.
fan.
We're gonna have
Buzz
some
him, Dave.
fun.
Buzz him, Dave. Bad
Take that,
film
Jeff.
fan. Yeah,
All
fuck
right,
you.
so
Fuck you.
I'm gonna set this next movie up because Dave, our co-host here, is going to be our resident expert on Odd Thomas. So if you were here at the beginning of the podcast, which would have taken you to now, I hope you didn't skip ahead. But if you did, welcome to the podcast. We're
Yes,
we're Jeff, Dave, and John. So we're gonna be talking about Odd Thomas, which was a movie directed and the screenplay written by Stephen Sommers, and it stars Anton Yelchin, who is definitely he is resting in peace. We don't have to hope he rests in peace. He's resting in peace. I saw Charlie Bartlett the year it came out, and I was like, "Holy shit, who is this kid?" And in the next 10 years, he did not disappoint.
So, yeah.
His end came too soon.
Absolutely.
Fuck yeah, Anton Yelchin, and then Willem Dafoe in a nice supporting role. This is based on a series of novels by Dean Koontz. Dave will talk all about that. Long story short, in California, in a desert town, a short order cook, he's not really a cook in the movie very long, but he is a cook. But he basically is clairvoyant with abilities, and he can sort of see, this is the tagline for the movie. Or it's actually the quote that they led with in the trailer. I see dead people, but then, by God, I do something about it. So it's basically like if the kid from Sixth Sense, Haley Joel Osment, grew up to become a sleuth detective.
Yeah, it's if
and
Haley
informed
Joel
the
knew
police.
kung fu, basically. Yeah.
If Haley Joel knew kung fu and had an in with the local detectives, in this case, Willem Dafoe, that's basically what this is about. He can see victims. They don't talk to him, but he sees that something happened to them, and they lead him to the killer, and he tries to piece it together of what the crime was, or at least who the killer was, and then he tells Willem Dafoe, who's the only person who believes him, and Willem Dafoe figures out how to make the crime, a viable court case. And it's very, very interesting. It's got action. It's got your detective stuff. It's got
I kind of call it modern.
mystery.
I reference it as modern noir. Because you've got the voiceover, you've got the punchy back and forth dialogue, the saxophone's replaced by a driving guitar, there's a mystery to be solved, and the whole thing happens in full color.
You're right. Yeah. They don't go for the noir as much as something like Rian Johnson's Brick, but I see where you're coming from.
I'm talking about modern noir, not someone trying to imitate noir, not like Ryan Dream Smasher Johnson.
Well, you know what? It kind of comes across more like what is that movie where the zombie the human falls in love with the zombie? What is that movie called? We Are.
I Love You.
Yeah. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
That's closer to the tone I feel in this one, but anyway, so that's what the movie's about.
That's the sound of John searching.
He knows it actually
I'm gonna find it, you guys.
Hold on, but wait, I want to make sure everybody's set up on what this movie's about. It's about how Anton Yelchin is fucking awesome.
Warm Bodies.
Yes. Yeah. With Nicholas Hoult. Yeah. So anyway, so Anton Yelchin, in this particular, the plot, I guess, now that you know what he is, his clairvoyance, he's trying to figure out, what's going on. He can tell that something big is going to happen, and it's going to happen in a public place because he's starting to see entities that only people who see dead people can see, and he knows that something is happening. And so he can't tick off to a crime that's already happened, and it complicates things. So he's trying to figure out what's going to happen. What is the imminent threat that is going to lead to mass death in order to prevent it? And I think it's an interesting hook. It's a good hook. I'm going to reserve any other thoughts or comments before Dave speaks, since he is the resident
Dave,
expert
I want to hear you go off, dude. You like it the most.
This is one of my guilty pleasures. Like, I've seen this movie so many times. I think I've seen Scott Pilgrim more because that's my number one favorite. But like, this one is definitely up there. They set this up wonderfully. Like, in the first 15 minutes, he avenges a wrong. You see that this happens to him often, so it affects his life. You meet his love, you hear what he wants from life, and straight away you're shown what threatens all of it. This is like the first 15 minutes. They haven't eased you in. They've gone, here's the world set up, here's the story, done. We're moving on, and it just goes and it flows, and he's now involved in solving the mystery that is what's going to happen to these people that I've seen in this vision that I had.
Yeah, basically. What was it like reading the books? Does it match the narrative you read?
I was curious how they read.
This is one of the few cases where the movie, in my opinion, surpasses the book. They did eliminate a couple of characters from the book. They made a few subtle changes and really made it punch. Like, there's just like an interesting thing which they reference in the movie subtly, but he has the ghost of Elvis following him around.
It's a character in the movie, or like a character who's not in the movie?
No, the character's not in the movie. They have a still of Elvis, like a picture of Elvis in his room.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, where he goes, "Morning, Elvis," and walks off. Yeah, and that's it. And then after that, Frank Sinatra follows him around for future books. So he has these ghosts.
Is it real kind of tongue in cheek? Is it kind of snarky the way it reads as well? The way they presented it?
Oh yeah, the dialogue was definitely preserved. Like, this almost every line that he references is in the book. There's a couple of omissions for obvious reasons. There's a whole companion character they omitted mostly. But yeah, all the snappy dialogue. The movie changed a lot of the stuff between him and Stormy, so that it happens on the phone directly. But a lot of the scenario translates over. But I feel like the movie really made it, like, it took the elements it wanted and made this just a really punchy, tight film.
It is punchy. Tight film, I will say.
I'll give you punchy and I'll give you tight. I didn't really like this movie. I didn't dislike it. I know. No, but I wasn't passionate about disliking it, though. I had fun time watching it. It was tight. I enjoyed myself. It was fun to follow along. But I'm so glad that you said that comment about the modern noir, because I've been trying to understand if there was something I thought was missing, or if I would have tweaked something. I think you nailed it, dude. Noir, modern or not, you have a world of doubt, right? Where you can't trust everyone that you're seeing. And the only reason noir succeeds, when it succeeds, is because your protagonist presents that to you as well, that you can't quite figure them out. But eventually, if the story is done correctly, you start to empathize with how they doubt themselves. And I think what frustrated me about this movie was that he was rock solid the entire time. I never, ever, ever got totally on board with him. And I think it's because he was 100% snarky and sure of himself in every single moment. So I was never nervous for him. Even when the movie was telling me, you should be nervous about this because this is a big showdown. I knew it was a big showdown. I knew what scene I was in, but my personal stakes as an audience member didn't get raised at all because I wasn't worried for him. Unlike, since you referenced it, Scott Pilgrim's fucking genius because Edgar Wright sneaks an emotional attachment that you have for Michael Cera's character in. So you think you're just following along on that fun video game ride, and then it turns into something where you're actually caring about him getting with the girl and defeating the guy. Whereas Odd Thomas, I felt like, I don't know. I'm also just gonna say it, you guys. I don't want to pick on her, but that girl was awful. Ashley Summers, I don't know if that's his daughter. Jeff, back me up here, dude. She was really terrible. Anton Yelchin is so good.
Anton Yelchin's great, and I Dave, I have to kind of side with John. I don't dislike it as much as John did, but all of the characters were two-dimensional.
I really didn't dislike it. I didn't hate this movie at all. I had a fine time. It has a 6.8 rating on IMDb. I'd probably give it a 6. I had a fine time watching it. I would watch the sequel, but I was trying to figure out why it didn't land like really
the
well.
Characters are all two-dimensional, and there's no subplot that runs perpendicular to the plot. So the plot is very straightforward, and there are no subplots that get introduced that divert the plot.
Jeff, are you hearing these buzzes? Are you hearing
No, you're
these
not.
buzzes?
We have our Zoom settings are fucked up because we can talk over each other, and that's why we can't hear the buzz when somebody's talking, dude. We gotta change it.
Sorry.
We buzzed
but what I would say to everybody is I would love for everybody to give it a watch because I do think it is worth it, especially for the two main performances between them. Stormy is I thought about this while I was writing, and John, I do appreciate where you're coming from because it is the actor's job to make the writing as brilliant as possible. That is the job of the actor.
It's literally your
job. They teach you that at
BFAs.
If you have a BFA and you've never been told this, you wasted your goddamn money because your job is to make the writer the most brilliant person in the world, and the director, I suppose, too. And the writing for this character is very two-dimensional. It's very much... Okay. You're right. I'm glad I had the buzz to take a step back because... they try to make her not two-dimensional by giving her two-dimensional tropes. That's what I would say to that. So they try to make it seem like she's not just moping around the guy, but she doesn't have her own individual point of view. So even though she's not the girl that's just moping, that's just saying like she believes the clairvoyant. She trusts that he has an ability, and she's kind of badass in how she tells him like, dude, this is the fucking way it is. You're gonna do this. You're gonna get some courage. You're gonna get some balls.
I'm telling you,
she doesn't have her own perspective, and I do think that holds it back a little bit. I'm not saying it would be more interesting if she was evil or violent or anything, but ultimately it's just who is the bad guy, and most of the bad guys, even when we figure out who they are, it's not Agatha Christie like, oh, it's kind of like, oh, that guy we saw once. You know what I mean? I do wish. So it's funny that it's tight because I love tight movies. But I, in a weird way, even though I love that it just got right to it, I wish they had taken more time to introduce more characters. So that way it could have been more whodunit-esque.
I'm kind of starting to wonder, am I taking extra from this because I read the books since? But like when I first saw this, I didn't read the books.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. But that's why I was asking you about the books because, to Jeff's point, like introducing side plots, and we said that recently about Cable Guy, like things to mess up your characters. Again, I'm going to reference Michael Cera, and not just as an actor, but the way they use him in those Edgar Wright movies, which have a very similar tone. So I'm glad you said you referenced that. You can see when an obstacle is introduced to a character, it doesn't land if the performance doesn't take on the obstacle as an impediment. So we had obstacles introduced to each of these characters. I don't think as actors they took them on, and sometimes they weren't introduced at all. Like, I'm trying to think of a specific moment when he was first in the guy's house and he opens the gate to hell, and you're like, well, it was pretty cool. And then right after that, he calls Stormy, or she calls him, and they're on the phone together, and she's like, what are you doing? And he tells her what happened, and then she says, what are you doing now? And he says, I'm going back. And because there's no fear in him, and there's nothing in his way, I kind of felt like I was waiting for something to interrupt the assurance that everyone had. All the characters in the movies, the director, I wanted something to actually get in the way emotionally. And maybe that's not the point of this movie. Maybe you're just supposed to sit back and have fun. But I would still argue that something like Scott Pilgrim and Hot Fuzz work because they do introduce, even with the tongue really pointing out the cheek in their mouth, even though it has that tone, those work better because they still enable them just enough for them to wink at us and say, we're taking this just serious enough so that you can enjoy yourself. I feel like this one wanted us to be along for the ride the entire time, but it never gave me anything other than the story moving forward. Do you disagree with that completely?
But don't you think that Anton did his best to try to make up for that? It's almost like he recognized that.
I don't disagree with that,
For sure.
but I definitely took something different.
Okay,
tell me, dude. Yeah,
tell us more, because I want people to watch this movie, because it's
I did not hate this movie, dude. I did not hate it at all.
It's not a bad film.
Movie.
It's definitely a fun watch. It's a great date night film. It has a twist.
Yeah,
I would watch the sequel. If he actually goes to Vegas, I'm sure I would sit down at some point and smoke a big one and watch that damn thing. Because I feel like that would be a fun time.
I haven't even got to the book where he goes to Vegas yet. So that was a really misdirected lead in. So like there's like 6 books, I think, between him and going to Vegas. So they skipped ahead really, really badly.
I will say, I'll give you this. Actually, I want to ask that. I don't want to tell you how I felt about it. What did you think? Dave, try to remember back to the first time you watched it before you read the book, and Jeff, right now, what did you think of the little coda at the end with the way they kind of twist it with her? Spoiler alert, if you're going to watch out, Thomas, there's a weird thing at the end, so I don't want to discuss super in detail, but something happens to him and his girl, and there's a weird little twist.
Really?
What's up?
Nothing.
And why didn't it affect you at all?
Because what? What if the twist didn't happen, what's in it for me? Like, what am I missing out on by the twist happening?
So I think that's kind of what I was getting at, is that when you
didn't empathize with the character at all.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I empathized with him, but he did such a good job at showing me what it was like letting her go that I was like, oh, I wonder what's going to happen to him. Didn't mind missing her.
Okay.
And that's
but I also kind of felt
and that's not on her. I think that's on the writers for not giving her her own point of view that was outside of him. Her entire point of view was focused around him, and it was cleverly done in a way that wanted to be feminist, but wasn't entirely feminist.
That is the one point where the movie falls down where the book didn't, because she definitely has her own character in the book.
And Jeff, I love that you said that. Dude, you made a good point.
Do you know what I'm talking about, though? Do you know where I'm coming from, Dave?
Yeah, no, that is. You're right. That is where the movie falls down.
Who is she without him? What does she do on Tuesday if she doesn't see him?
Yes.
I love that, dude. You made a good point that you said it earlier, that they wrote her as though they wanted her to come off as this strong, independent, witty female, and yet her entire world was seen through his eyes. So we never really had a real chance. I also felt like, again, I was in kind of 2 different movies. I'm not sure if it was just the performances or the writing or everything. Anton was giving it 110% at the end when he was so upset. And I just didn't believe that anyone else was in the same movie. Even Willem Dafoe, I felt like he was just kind of standing there. And Anton Yelchin was giving you everything he had. He was giving you all of his training in that last little bit. So that was one of those times where I felt like the idea was a good idea. Oh my God, we're going to have this twist. Whether or not Dean wrote it, it doesn't matter. It's a good twist at the end.
He did.
It got me by surprise. It's from the book, so that's a good idea. But whenever you're playing ideas,
it's not often you hear me credit Dean
You don't bring
Koontz.
them to fruition. Yeah, sure. But you don't bring them to fruition with character development. It doesn't matter, because it's just going to remain an idea. If you're not along for the ride, you're not going to care, and it's just going to seem cheap. And honestly, by the time I finished it, it felt kind of cheap to me. I felt like they were kind of taking a cheap shot.
I I no, see, I don't feel like that. I feel like they just swung and missed. I feel like I knew what they wanted and they just didn't get there in an hour and a half. They wanted to keep the movie tight and they just didn't get there in time. It had a little bit of a Stranger Things season 3 going on for me with them all, especially, but all this stuff going on and so much, and these are the people that need to solve this problem that's way above them. So let's give us a fix. Let's do this. Let's do that. Let's do that. Let's get on with it. And hopefully there's an emotional impact. And you know what? Maybe it will land for people. So again, I'm curious for people to follow because the actors are working their ass off. They really are. But I do think the writers gave some characters short shrift. And I think that, you know, it comes into play a little bit. But I'm curious because it's for free. Everybody just watch it. It's an hour and a half. Just give it a watch.
So, like, in hindsight...
Are they making a sequel?
No, they can't. Like,
yeah, they
cast Anton, so yeah, he's done.
Well, they can recast him.
Yeah,
it's
I mean, they could, but I don't know if it'd work because, like, even when I was reading the books, I'm picturing Anton. Like, he nailed that character
He's
so
really
much.
He really did
got in my
everything
head.
right. He did.
He's really, really good in it.
So yeah, like credits.
Except, wait, did he open the door to hell? Because I actually didn't get that he opened it. I thought it was already opened already.
It was already open,
and that's me too. Yeah, exactly. Now to John's point, I wish he had opened it and done a Stranger Things season 1. There's a lot of Stranger Things going on. Do it and make 11 go, oh no, I did this. And it's like, yeah, but you're also the only one that can
remember
solve it,
in
so
Stranger
let's move on.
Things, well, let's go there. In Stranger Things season 1, as soon as they realized it was open, everyone was fucking terrified, including 11. They were all broken by the idea
Anton was. Anton did the work of 1,000 men for this, but nobody else.
He wasn't scared though. He was like, I'm going back. I'm going to go look at it. I want to go look at it. I was like, I don't know, dude. I don't know. It just didn't.
Yeah, I mean,
I still think
that hails back to the original Dean Koontz interpretation of the character. He's never phased, really. He always has.
Does that work? So
he always has a.
So is that a rule?
No, it's kind of like it's a failing in writing for Dean Koontz.
Yeah. No, that's what I'm asking. Like in terms of storytelling, I don't know if that rule doesn't.
Yeah, that's something that maybe they shouldn't have adapted. He's like cocksure, like. He's always certain there's going to be a positive outcome. I mean, sometimes Anton threw that in that like he didn't know whether it was going to succeed, but yeah, I can tell you in the books and the future books, there's always that.
I'm so glad you said that because sometimes we all are in the film acting world, so we read screenplays quite a bit in our lives, and I talk to actors all the time about this, and I know I feel this. I struggle with this enormously. I struggle with it with novels a little bit sometimes too, but I definitely struggle with it with screenplays. It's really hard to imagine and to give yourself permission to what it would feel like to elevate it off the page. It's so stark. The descriptions are usually so slim, and the character is just these lines on a page, and then you have to turn it into something much, much more than that. You have to transcend that. And I felt like they played this how it would read the first time you read the screenplay. And that's why I feel like it just lived at that place that it was not as good as it could have been because I think they were afraid to go beyond the idea of it. Someplace that Edgar Wright would have gone with it.
Anton took it, but nobody else did.
Anton took it. Yeah. He fucking took the note.
Yeah.
I mean, that guy's fucking really, really, really good. Fuck you, car company. What's the car company?
Do not mention the car company. We're not getting sued twice in one episode.
Nah, fuck that car company. That's bullshit, dude. Terrible, tragic situation.
It was absolutely tragic. Look it up online. We're not going to mention that, but yeah.
He's so good in this. He's crying so hard at the end of this movie.
Oh my God, he was so good, yeah. You know what that reminds me of? I've seen Broadway shows that do this, where like a character is pregnant and some people go, and then some other times they're like, I'm pregnant, and people are like, oh, okay, cool, they're pregnant, and like they don't have an emotional. It's just basically like, what's next now that they're pregnant? You know what I mean? There's no like emotional whatever, and I did take that of the ending, but Anton played it as if it was part 1, and so again, the performances are great, and the genre we know works.
I mean, the other thing is, well, the film ran out of budget halfway through, so they almost didn't finish it.
Yeah, I heard about that. Did they film in Santa Fe?
I'm willing to. Albuquerque, I think it was.
It looked like New Mexico for sure. Yeah, Albuquerque.
But there was. I'm willing to bet there was no marketing budget for this.
I didn't even hear about it.
They did a limited release starting abroad.
Yeah.
So if you actually go online, this is 2013. It actually says on Hulu or on Amazon that it came out in 2014 because the 2013 release started in Europe, and then they had issues with their marketers. They had the crazy legal disputes So it like totally fucked the entire release of this movie up, which is probably why
marketers don't
Yeah,
like it
which I
if you
feel
don't
bad
give
for.
them $1 million.
Yeah.
Usually
This
they
is a
just
fun
take the
movie.
fucking
It's
back
worth
end
watching.
and
It's
not
on
like
Prime
that.
Video.
Just
Sorry,
take your
that's me.
take
That's
your
just
cut.
me.
Take your cut, take your shares, market the movie, and then go.
It's on
Like,
Prime Video, right? Let's give it a watch.
is,
This one's
yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
I'll tell you
It's a
what, you
fun
guys.
genre and
The
it's
whole time
short.
I was
Give it a
watching
shot.
this, I was thinking series. How is this not a series?
Yeah.
They could recast this series
They
and really go to
absolutely
town.
could.
I feel
It felt
that
like
comes
a
up once
pilot
an
episode to
now.
me.
This should be a series. Yeah, but I'm with you. This should have been a series. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they could still do it if they want to. I would watch that.
Yeah, I mean, given the amount of books he wrote, they probably could.
Yeah,
I mean,
and you know what? The second one
no
probably
brainer.
would have taken our note about the supporting characters and gone with it. And this could be like one of those movies
Dude,
that's
Jeff, what's
4
the
or
kid
5
from
series where
Manchester by the Sea? He's my Odd Thomas.
Lucas Hedges.
Lucas Hedges is Odd Thomas. Let's do it. Let's rock and roll. I'll be totally down
and you
for
know what?
that.
Lucas Hedges is watching Timothy Chalamet have a moment, and he was like, "Wait, I was nominated for an Oscar too. Where's my money? Let's go."
He's
I
great,
don't think he
dude.
got any money from Boy Erased. I don't think Boy Erased did it. So like, let's
He's
give
so
Lucas
good.
Hedges
Lucas
his big
Hedges-
fucking
All right,
seven-figure deal.
we've
Let's
hit the end of Odd Thomas, I think.
All right,
Odd
so
Thomas.
you
All
guys
right, what are
wanna
we doing
announce
next
the movies?
week?
Yeah,
Jeff,
what
you're
are
not
the
even going
movies
to
we're
be
doing
here.
next week?
You're not even going
Jeff's,
to be with
Jeff's
us.
grounded, so
Yeah.
Jeff, go fuck yourself. We're doing the year 1982.
1982. We're going to touch the verdict.
Yeah, we're going to do The Verdict, a
And-
little movie by Sidney Lumet.
And then The Thing is going to touch us.
John Carpenter's The Thing, which I'm so fucking excited
not,
to rewatch.
Not
Gotta
the
love that
remake,
movie.
the fucking original, because fuck the remake.
Oh, my
Oh,
God.
I said it. Okay, and then
Oh, my God.
for Was It Really That Bad?
Apparently, we hate ourselves and we really just want to just cry ourselves to sleep at the end of whatever night we watch this next one on.
We're doing Grease 2.
God,
How are you
damn
doing
it.
this
Who's
without
that
me?
guy?
How are you doing this without
Who's
me?
that
You're doing
guy?
Grease 2. You're
Jeff,
doing
you know
a
what?
musical
I'm actually gonna. You know
without
what?
me.
I'm
I'm
making
sorry.
an official request right now. I'm making a request on air. Can you record one rant about Grease 2 so that we can just play it in the
Yeah,
middle of our
we'll just play
episode
it.
and laugh at you?
Yeah, please.
So we
Is
can
it
just
available?
buzz you.
It's available.
Is it available?
Yes, it's on
for
streaming.
stream?
Yes.
What is it
Don't
on?
let me down. Don't let me down. Young Michelle Pfeiffer. I'm ready to go. That movie's gonna
And
suck.
I mean, I'm looking forward to the number of about 40 minutes in the words of Donald Trump. Let's do it for our country.
Holy
For our country,
fucking
that's
shit,
right.
dude. I'm
Grease
not excited.
2,
I was talking. I was
1982.
texting with Jack Daniel today, who's going to be with us next week again, and he said he was very excited. I just told him right in our break. I texted him and told him what the movies were going to be, and he said, as soon as I read Grease 2, I reached for the bottle. So I'm very.
That is the
I'm
effect we were looking for.
It's
Yes.
it's
so
gonna
excited
fucking
to hear
happen.
what you-
God, that's gonna be
I'm so
rough.
excited to hear this podcast.
Also,
next
thank
week.
you.
We'll
Yeah,
see.
I'm looking forward to everyone tuning in instead of watching politics on TV because who wants to watch that?
DNC. All right, you guys. 2013.
next
Let's
week.
just give it up one more time. What a year for movies. Once again, we have
Good
been
year. Good
humbled by the year of movies. This was such a
Good
good
year.
year. I'm so glad we got to talk about it. Jesus.
Yeah. Introduced us, Lupita Nyong'o, Margot Robbie, introduced to the world. Welcome
Unbelievable.
to the world.
What a year.
All right,
All right,
shit.
you guys. We're going to see you next week.
Bye.